Hello Total War fans, this is Sons of Three Kingdom, back after the world's longest hiatus. It was 8 months, got caught up with work, and also that's just how I roll. I'm um, a very changeable person. But having said that, the game is finally out. I've played it a bit, not much, but what we're going to do is go through a playthrough of the Cao Cao campaign. Now, just the background for everybody watching, which is, 3 people and 7 bots. My deal is that I am a Total Wars player, but not like a, not an avid one. I have played most of the past ones quite extensively. However, what I am is a much bigger Three Kingdoms fan from a history lore perspective. So essentially this playthrough, it won't be, I'm fully aware that I'm not like an insanely charismatic YouTuber, shit at video editing, average Total War player at best, but what I do have is just the world's most encyclopedic knowledge of Three Kingdoms history. So it'll be a historical perspective on the playthrough, and as I play through, I will be going through the history and the lore, etc., just so the rest of you Total War fans who are new to this period of history can get more of a historical perspective. And I will be playing the romance mode just because it looks more fun, but I will be kind of explaining, the deviations in both how that period of Imperial China actually worked, as well as, like deviations in actual characters and lore. I'm playing Cao Cao, even though it's, I guess, the easy campaign, just because it probably does give you, he is absolutely the key person for at least the first half of the Three Kingdoms period. So it's the most logical to go through with him. I'll try to continue my other kind of like history lore videos alongside this playthrough. Obviously this channel's been on hiatus for a long time, but I'm ready to get back started again. The other thing I will point out is that I'll be trying to play Cao Cao as he did through history. Obviously that won't be entirely possible just based on, if I lose or if I fuck up, etc. But I'll try to mimic his actual career. The difficulties, the setting I have is hard difficulty because it is a historically focused playthrough. I don't want to get too bogged down with, just like losing everywhere, which I'm still new enough to this game. I've put in maybe about 2-3 hours just to see how it goes. I'm still new enough that I'm sure if I put it on very hard, which is obviously how I normally play Total War, I'm sure I'll get trounced a lot. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this on the road.
Stark against the night. The tyrant Dong Zhuo
I'm just gonna talk through this intro, pointing out where it's correct and where it's incorrect, I guess. This intro is pretty much the standard historical understanding.
The hand falters. Opportunity glimmers in the darkness.
You can really see the proper kind of historical perspective on this era. Right now we're talking about 180, late 180s to 190 AD. I believe this game starts at 190 AD. So you can watch my history and lore Rise of Cao Cao video to get more of a background on that.
Empire of the Han, stretching back ages beyond counting, is being devoured by corruption.
I talk about this a lot. The Yellow Turban Rebellion happened in 184 AD. It was put down in 185 AD. The romanticization of this story keeps linking the Yellow Turban Rebellion with the Three Kingdoms, just because it's a good origin story for the various characters of the Three Kingdoms, but in actual history, it really didn't work out like that. When the Yellow Turban Rebellion happened, most of the kind of key protagonists of the Three Kingdoms would have been too young or too low in station, so they wouldn't have taken part. There was 5 good years of peace between the Yellow Turban Rebellion and the rise of Dong Zhuo the Tyrant, which is when this actually happened. Now, this characterization as the 10 eunuchs as a source of China's ills, this is also not historically nuanced. Let's just say that there were 2 factions. Again, you can see this in my Rise of Cao Cao videos. There were primarily 2 political factions, and it just so happens that most of these kind of regional governors who became warlords were on the other side of this political struggle against the eunuch faction. It wasn't so much that one side was good or one side was bad. History is rarely so black and white. Dongzhuo was absolutely a tyrant. He committed many massacres. There's basically no good defending him. But the 10 eunuchs, they weren't really as bad as this game made them out to be.
A coalition of warlords rose up, led by the charismatic Yuan Shao, to save the Han. Faced with united opposition, Dongzhuo retreated west to his stronghold of Chang'an, razing the old capital Luoyang to the ground as he fled.
Alright, not gonna continue through the rest
It is
of this.
now the year.
Sorry about the relatively bad graphics.
The flames
This
have
game
run
seems to
their
be really
course.
doing a number on my
Luoyang
computer.
is nothing but rubble now. It is the work of the tyrant Dongzhuo, who now wields power unchecked. He absconds with the Emperor in tow. He is barbaric, but not altogether unwise.
That is correct. All of the established
As long as he controls the court,
governors of
he
Eastern China
controls
and
the
all the
empire.
ministers would have seen Dongzhuo as a barbarian. He was
In
a
peace,
border,
I
he
shall
guarded
be
the
an
full
able
northwestern
subject.
border. He was a pure
In
military
chaos,
man. In a
crafty
society kind
hero.
of dominated by the
What
Confucian
of the
gentry and
coalition,
the
my lord?
scholar
They
literati,
have
The coalition is
Dongzhuo would
finished.
not have been respected.
They
He would have
have
been
lost
seen as
their
quite
might.
barbaric. Yeah.
But perhaps they can be rallied into something resembling their old strength. It seems that I must be the blade of China's justice. There is no other who can. Man's span of life, whether long or
This
short,
quote, I like that they
depends
put
not
this
on
quote
heaven
here
alone.
because this is from one of Cao Cao's poems. I believe the poem is called Short Song Style. It was an actual poem written by him. So yeah, they definitely respect the kind of they definitely respect the period a lot. I'll say this. Okay, so obviously these first few battles are just going to be quite trivial.
To arms!
Let's just get this one out of the way.
My ambition is coming to fruition.
Yeah.
I value true talent. Meditate on summer's passing. Do not. All as one.
I'm actually going to fight this one out just because I don't want to suffer too many casualties. Sorry, it's going to be a bit of a boring battle, but you know how it goes. One thing I like about the way that they structured this game, I mean, it's not this retinue system
China
is kind of how it would have worked
Through this
historically.
chaos, I have found
Instead of at this
opportunity.
point, instead of having really professional armies, because there was such a kind of fracturing of a relatively demilitarized empire, you would have had individual officers who were usually governors or bandits or whatever. They would have had a close core of elite companions, and those would have determined the tide of battle in among a larger kind of like clash between relatively untrained troops. So, and this is what I've talked about this in my history and lore videos before. This is what really gave rise to the idea of like so much heroism and so much romanticization, because it was a lot of these battles and larger conflicts and even wars were determined by relatively small groups of men, just because the larger army, these massive armies of sometimes hundreds of thousands of people, were really just too untrained and disorganized, at least in early Three Kingdoms era, to be really brought to bear in an effective way. So yeah, all the kind of more exciting actions, the valiant charges, the rear guards, the forlorn hopes, the ambushes, they would have been all carried out by small groups of officers and their very committed retainers, basically. So I do like the retainer system. It's not how battles in this era would have looked, but it does kind of stay true to the spirit of it, if that makes sense. the characterization of Cao Cao here is that they've made him already quite ambitious and cunning at this stage. There's absolutely no evidence really that he would have been this ambitious and kind of cunning and Machiavellian this early. That really did seem like a much later change, but you know what? I get it. You want to craft a narrative, but yeah, at early stage, from all the accounts that we have, it seemed like he was quite idealistic, if anything. Alright. Let's try to get this over quickly. Sorry, I know this can't be super interesting watching this. The one thing I don't really like, as I said, I'm new to this game, so if there is a way to fix this, somebody please tell me, because I don't like how these officers walk. Like, if I group Cao Cao with the infantry like this, I don't want him going that much faster than the rest of the infantry, so that's not fantastic. Alright. Sorry, as I said, my graphics are not the best, so I'm not going to subject you to that many close-ups. Actually, you know what? They look okay close up. They just look really bad far away. I like whilst they're moving. I don't really know why. I searched kind of online for this, but couldn't really figure out what the problem was. Oh, this is already bad. I'm already taking fire. What abilities does Cao Cao have? No, that's not gonna help that much. I'm sorry, Xiahou Dun. I'm sorry this is happening to you. The background on Xiahou Dun is that he is one of Cao Cao's most important generals. You know what? Historically, he actually wasn't as good a general as people made him out to be. But, you know, he was one of Cao Cao's most trusted generals. There is a common story that he is, the Xiahou family, is Cao Cao's cousin. We don't really have a historical source for that. Yeah, so we can't say that for sure. But definitely the Xiahou family was, so as I mentioned in my Cao Cao history and lore video, one of the things about Cao Cao is that he had a policy about employing people just on merit, as opposed to merit and virtue and political status, etc. So what that means is that he had the support of a lot of these not really noble-born or illustrious types of people, and one of the big ones was the Xiahou family, who produced a lot of very capable officers for Cao Cao, and that's really the story. And Xiahou Dun is kind of the, not the patriarch, but I guess the scion of the Xiahou family that really supported him very early on, and they were ride or die. They ended up serving the Cao family very well and were elevated very highly. The fact that they characterize all the Dongzhuo loyalists as a Han Empire, I guess it kind of makes sense. I guess what it is that Dongzhuo technically has control of the central government at this point, so I guess technically speaking, then yes, everybody who is fighting against the coalition is the Han Empire, but that's certainly not how the coalition would have seen it. The coalition would have seen themselves as the rightful representatives of the Han Empire, trying to rescue the child emperor from the clutches of this kind of illegitimate tyrant. From what I've seen of the units here, unfortunately we don't have a lot of unit variety. I like that every faction has a few special units, because there were kind of like retinues that were very famous throughout history. The Tiger and Leopard Cavalry, that is Cao Cao's faction's special units. Yeah, they were mentioned quite a few times. But unfortunately, history of this period of China was recorded by the scholar gentry, who really didn't care too much for war. So we don't actually know that much. Like, what little we do know about the battles and the kind of like the construct a building in Chentown. Sure. What we do know, what little we do know about the battles seems absolutely fascinating, but they're just not recorded that much, and the kind of like unit variety seemed really fascinating as well. I remember reading this historical record from the Record of the Grand Historians, which was recording much earlier than this. It was recording kind of like the Warring States in the Spring Autumn period. This was about 190 AD right now, so it would have been recording events about 600-700 years before this, and yeah, it recorded a conversation where two generals, well, I think it was a duke and a general discussing naval warfare, and the general said something like, these days in naval warfare we are as advanced and varied as land warfare, and he listed like 6 different categories of ships that they employed and the different ways they employed them, and that's, you know, one of the few historical records we have about just actually how much just how much variety there was. And unfortunately these goddamn Confucian gentry who recorded the history just didn't care about it too much. Okay, I'm still trying to work out the building system of this game. I don't really get it, unfortunately. 10 upkeep per turn, plus 25% food production. Yeah, I think if I'm going to play true to Cao Cao's rise, he managed to organize agriculture and industry just far better than anybody else. So I think I'm gonna go for that. Oh, actually, what is population growth, food production? Yeah, that's good. A prestige. Yeah, I'm gonna give myself a little more flexibility here. And as unfortunately, as much as I like commerce, that wasn't really the way he played things. Yeah, he was a peasant. He was somebody who organized the peasantry really well. Okay, where is this other? Yep. The other thing that's kind of bad is that I'm so bad at this game that I haven't really figured out how uniting commandery actually helps, like if it gives any bonuses, etc. Cao Cao should have good authority, so give him that. Followers, instinct, loose, wedge, sure. Alright. Do all these people hate me? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So I encountered this on my last. It's really weird that Lady Bien would have a low satisfaction rating. Lady Bien is Cao Cao's primary wife. This is the age of polygamy where people had multiple wives. But Lady Bien was just like notably, you know, a capable administrator. I mean, representing her as a commander is a nonsense, but I get why. Because she was an important figure. She was a very capable administrator, great advisor, kind of managed the household really well. And she absolutely was not somebody who was dissatisfied with Cao Cao. Cao Cao did have another famous consort, a Lady Ding, and Lady Ding famously did have like a very tumultuous relationship with Cao Cao that ended up with her leaving Cao Cao, going back to her hometown, Cao Cao kind of like following her, begging her to come back, and eventually just like she refuses to listen to him, and then he would basically divorce her and give her authority to remarry, although nobody did. Probably because they were afraid of marrying Cao Cao's ex-wife. But, and then Lady Bien even then got on really well with Lady Ding, even after she was divorced. She would invite her into the capital whenever Cao Cao was away on campaigns. Sorry, what am I doing here? Yeah, I'm trying to give her something to increase her satisfaction. I like this, you know, I haven't played the game long enough to see how this satisfaction thing works out, but I like this idea. +1. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's go with this. I want to give Cao Cao a lot of authority because I want to represent the fact that his followers were loyal to him. They were loyal, like not even loyal. They believed in him. As I said in the Cao Cao history and lore video, they believed in him more than he believed in himself. So, yeah. All right. Trade agreements. Wang Lang. No. I found it really weird that Wang Lang is located here. I don't know this early how.
The floor is open.
Can you give us some money? Oh, that's not a lot. Sure.
Your terms are acceptable.
I always associated Wang Lang more as a southern warlord, but it might have been that he, I don't know too much about the guy. I know that Sun Ce eventually defeats him, and then he eventually goes on to serve Cao Cao as a minister. But yeah, I wasn't aware that he was this close early on. Can we get Kongzhou? No, I want to take him later on. Wang Lang, maybe. Yeah, I'm not
Welcome,
Nah.
friend.
That's not worth it. Not at this stage.
The absence of people is indicative of China's sickness.
So obviously at this stage, my first goal is to unite the Chen province. Well, commandery, sorry. Historically, what Cao Cao did at this stage was unite the entire Yan province, but that's going to be quite impossible. Once I see the scale of this map, each province, for reference, the basic building regions of this game are commanderies. Each province is about anywhere from 4 to like 8 commanderies. So yeah, it's not going to be quite possible to do that. I shouldn't have gotten rid of the court so early. I do want to see. Yeah, okay, I don't care about these people. I do want to make a point to recruit anybody who comes across who was later key in Cao Cao's camp. But even though that's probably not beneficial to gameplay, because I don't think we actually need that many. This is bad pathfinding. Buddy. Yeah, it's too late now. Will Kongzhou give us a military access? I mean, I'm not too worried about pissing him off. Well, that's fine. Alright, what do we got here? I want to get a food surplus up, just because it seems like I'm in the really the right territory for it, and also because historically that is one of Cao Cao's one of the reasons that he was able to succeed so well is because he was able to organize kind of like a food supply recruitment infrastructure better than anybody else, earlier than anybody else. So he probably had the first, outside of Dong Zhuo's core, which was definitely a professional army because they were the border garrisons. He was the first of the kind of other warlords who was able to get a professional army going. I don't know how many people Chen have guarding them. Alright, sorry, Wang Lang. I mean, Kongzhou. Let's just see how this goes.
For reunification! No mercy!
Ah, there's an army. There's a yellow turban army. I might have misthought this.
To war!
I must refuse.
It's possible that I should I don't even know if I can retreat, actually.
Making my way.
That would be the perfect start of this game if I lose my army just this early. I thought I could push it a bit harder without recruiting anymore, but oh well. I'm still eminently confused by this reform tree. This is all incredibly confusing to me. As I said, he was really, at this stage, good at reforming the peasantry, so I'm going to focus on that. Alright. Please don't attack me. Okay, good. There's another army.
We would not be your enemy.
I do want to take you eventually, but probably not right now,
done,
so that's
then.
fine. God damn, it's really hard for me to get back to my... Okay, here we go. I feel like growth at this point is more important. Nope. I'm just looking out here because I'm looking to make an early alliance with Yuan Shao. Cao Cao's relationship with Yuan Shao was quite good at the start. And that's really, you know, and that would also secure the northern flank because he should really win out over here.
You would not need fear us.
Yeah, no way. As I said, I'm playing this true to history, and Cao Cao goes to war with Cao Tian not too far in the future, like about 190. Well, this game actually goes a little fast. They go to war in like 194 AD or something, even before that. So, yeah. Okay. Heavy tiger and leopard cavalry. I mean, these guys are expensive. Oh, they're not that expensive. That's fine then. Alright. I want to bring a new person into the army. Who am I bringing? No, I'm bringing somebody I already have. Alright, I'm bringing Tarin. Let's go.
Steel for battle.
I would like more archers. I still haven't really figured out the best way to balance these retinue systems. As I said, I've only played it for a few hours before this, but I would want to think that Cao Cao, as the kind of heart of the army, should have pretty... Okay, that just took us...
All must unite.
That just took us out of being able to build anything. That's fine. Alright, you just chill out here. Am I... Ah, I can give assignments. Fantastic. Tax collection. +8 public order. Tax collection. Alright, wifey. Make us proud. Hope I don't need to raise a second army. So yeah, we just wasted about 4 turns because I did pathfinding really badly. That is the type of high-skilled Total War player you can expect. Just absolute military genius. Sure to live up to the name of one of the greatest commanders of ancient China. Alright, that's fine. Hold 3 settlements. Yeah, that problem will be solved pretty soon. Scholar, ooh. dicking around. I'm sorry about this. Come on, buddy. Let's... Cao Cao and Yuan Shao were obviously at this point their relationship had deteriorated a little, but not as much as the, not as much as the. Why can't I even do? Oh, I see. I already have a non-aggression pact with him. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, whilst their relationship deteriorated a bit because the coalition fell apart so badly, Yuan Shao was not actually responsible for the lack of support given to Cao Cao. Cao Cao was with the central camp. Yuan Shao was with the northern camp. As I explained in my other video, sorry, I'm getting really tired of saying that. The coalition operated on 4 fronts, and actually after Cao Cao fell out with the fellow commanders on the central front, Yuan Shao actually invited him to join with him. These two were close childhood friends. They were political allies. It would take a long time before their relationship actually fell apart like that. Historically, it kind of fell apart at around 200 AD. That's when they kind of fought their most famous battle. Yeah, so this is pure dramatic invention. It is true that, first of all, Wang Yun, I mean, this guy gets a great deal historically because it's not clear what he did. It wasn't known that he publicly schemed against Dong Zhuo. In the romanticization, he was a mastermind of this entire thing, because obviously, when you're talking about romanticizations from quite a patriarchal society like that of Imperial China, it wasn't, you know, it couldn't be Diao Chan, this woman, alone scheming out of the loyalty to the emperor to drive apart Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu. But it had to be her adopted father, Wang Yun. Historically, Diao Chan didn't exist, but there was a servant girl who Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu fought over. But they were also falling apart due to all manners of other reasons. I'm sure that wasn't the only one. But they did mention that they fell out and quarreled over who gets a servant girl. So it's not completely inaccurate. We'll give it one more turn. Let's not campaign in the winter. Yeah, I'm very frustrated by, I mean, I'm sure I could have started faster if I didn't fuck up so much just then, but oh no.
You would not need fear us.
Wang Lang, yeah, sure. That's fine.
Your acceptance gives us joy.
The Yellow Turban has seized this town. That's a shame. Yeah, this happened in history. I mean, one of the great historical what-ifs is what if, you know, Sun Jian had actually survived, because he was such a talented general. He was basically single-handedly defeating Dong Zhuo's entire army. He came out of nowhere. He was a son of a merchant. But he got killed so early against kind of overwhelming forces. And a great historical what if is, what if he survived? But then, as it happens, his son, Sun Ce, was like a historically renowned conqueror within Imperial China. He was called the Little Conqueror because at, you know, such a young age, he kind of ended up taking over about 30% of China. And that's really, you know, so it ended up working out fine for the Sun family. Alright, He Yi. Who is this fucker? Does he... Oh, he's at war with everybody. Yeah, let's join the fun.
We will crush your armies with ease.
It's important I get this town. Yeah, I might wait one more turn until everything's up to full strength.
How can I serve, my lord?
But whilst we're here, let's just beef up our armies a bit. You don't need a scholar advisor. Alright. Plus 10% income from all sources. How's our supplies doing? Well, this shows how bad I am. I don't even know where to check for supplies. Okay, no, we're fine. So... I appreciate that they try to make everything follow the Wuxian kind of Taoist philosophy, but boy, does it make everything kind of pretty confusing. 3K population growth. Yeah, we want population growth. And also resettlement incentives. That was something that Cao Cao did historically as a policy. It was one of his big policies. Alright, enough of this nonsense. Let's go.
I cannot.
That is a big army. But we got no other enemies around us. Should be fine. I mean, we got these guys, but I don't think they're gonna muster up any army. Oh, well, that's convenient.
Fire burns brightly and indiscriminately. But no flame can last forever. Starved of air, it chokes, it splutters, and is then extinguished. The tyrant is dead. Yet in the ashen darkness, the avaricious prowl.
This is absolutely not how it worked out. Dong Zhuo did have a nephew named Dong Min, but the faction basically fell apart upon his assassination by Lu Bu. All of his generals, well, first of all of his loyalist generals started attacking Lu Bu immediately. Lu Bu allied with the remaining ministers at central government court in Xi'an, and where's Xi'an? Yeah, here, there it is. Yeah, he allied with the remaining ministers, but he wasn't able to hold off, you know, the crack troops commanded by Dong Zhuo's loyalists. His army corps, Dong Zhuo's army corps, the Xiliang troops, were really never, you know, beaten by the coalition on their retreat west. So Lu Bu kind of was driven out quickly and was forced to become a mercenary general for a few years. And then, very predictably, all of Dong Zhuo's kind of subordinates, in a bid to control the emperor and control the court and see who could succeed him, fell into civil war. So at this point, historically, there was no unified Dong Zhuo province. But, you know, that happens here. Yeah, Yellow Turban Rebellion, I mean, they really should have been destroyed. What are we? 192? Yeah, they really should have been destroyed about 7 years before this. But what can you do? Alright. I'm worried about fighting this army after this, so even though this battle is such a cinch, I will go into this battle just because I don't want to take too many casualties. Although it is true that whilst the unified Yellow Turban Rebellion fell in 185, individual pockets, they basically were no longer the Yellow Turbans. They just turned to banditry or just became their own rebel armies, trying to survive as anybody else was. Those ones kept going for a long time. And just a quick reminder of how this period kind of worked. Essentially, the Han Empire had a very intense administration system, like a very well developed bureaucracy across 400 years. But what happened is that as soon as war happened, anybody who could really hold an army ended up just like being recommended for governor, because at that point, holding an army and holding a territory just became more important than anything else. So suddenly you had, very lowly, not even government officials, just suddenly be appointed as so the ranks at this time, the kind of regional ranks, there were three key ones. There was the governor of a province, which is a huge rank because the entire empire was only 13 provinces. So, if you think about 1/13 of this map, the governor of a province, the inspector of a province, the inspector and the governor kind of held dual power. Technically, the inspector was meant to ensure the governor's loyalty to the empire, whilst the governor ran the day-to-day. Realistically, at this point, it was just, via these kind of patronage networks and kind of loyalty of armies, the power was being held by whoever. And then on commandery level, you would have protectors. So the protectors of the commanderies, I'm going to use the term governor for all three types of, oh, there's high ground here, okay. Sorry, yeah, I'm going to use the term governor pretty interchangeably, but just know that when I say governor, I could be referring to quite a few different types of ranks. But as I said, at this point, once, am I able to reach this high ground before them? Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. I outnumber them pretty significantly. At this point, those old kind of like actual bureaucracy ranks and stations mattered a lot less than who was effective as a actual commander and administrator. Get over here. I want to talk about Cao Ren a little bit. That's the general I just recruited. Cao Ren would end up becoming younger cousin of Cao Cao. This one's actually a younger cousin, unlike the Xiaohous, whose relationship to the Cao clan was always a bit unclear historically. But Cao Ren would end up becoming one of Cao Cao's most effective. I mean, he was a cornerstone of the empire by the end. He was controlling entire regions. Cao Cao was entrusting him with just some of the most important regions. Yeah, okay. Cao Ren at this point, even at the start, he was already a trusted lieutenant of Cao Cao. But we're really going to see his commanding chops later on, and that's why I want to kind of include this character in my army from the start. I want him to get a lot of experience. I want him to take a similar role as he did historically as a kind of trusted, almost like field marshal who was commanding entire regions and fronts at a time against some of Cao Cao's best enemies. Like, this guy faced off against the combined forces of Liu Bei and Sun Qian, as in the two other kingdoms, for 2 years. He was really quite something. Alright, let's go, archers. There is no point. Oh, I have a spearman here. How silly of me. No, you go. You go over there. Can we maybe tempt his cavalry into a charge? That would be ideal. Again, not a fan of this thing where they just rush ahead. Ah, great. Fantastic.
A comrade is being attacked.
Fire on the archers, please. Alright, Xiaohojun pull out. All you guys collapse in. Xiaohojun pull out. Get the archers. Thank you. You get these guys. Thank you. Tauren, get in there. Left wing, fold in. What are we doing? This is a settlement battle. Yeah, I don't even need to capture them. That's fine. Cao Cao, get in there. You run those down. Make sure they don't come back. Alright, great. Easy peasy. Well, I guess it's fine for us fighting against He Yi. He Yi was a rebel, and Cao Cao did defeat quite a few rebel armies in the Chen province, and the refugees and POWs and kind of all the other, because these rebel armies were basically huge unruly mobs. I mean, we're talking about 300,000 yellow turban remnants and refugees, and kind of a mass migration happened into Cao Cao's territories in the Yan province in about 190 AD, and 191 AD, sorry, I think. And it was really via inflicting a series of crushing victories upon them that Cao Cao got recommended for the post of the protector of the Yan. I mean, actually, I can't remember which post. I think it was a protector rank post. But more importantly, what he ended up doing was resettling these, the civilians among them, and then kind of just incorporating all the POWs into his own army. And it gave him one of the most effective fighting corps to exist in that land outside of Dong Zhuo's remnants. They were called the Qingzhou Army Corps. They were about 30,000 strong, and it instantly took him from this, one of dozens of these regional governors into one of the kind of like 4 or 5 primary forces within northeastern China. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, it's unfortunately not going to go so well for us here. I mean, this is a very minor battle, but yeah, everybody knows him for his participation in the campaign against Dong Zhuo in the coalition, but really he cut his teeth by destroying these rebels. But not only by destroying these rebels, by actually knowing how to handle them afterwards, and how to make sure that they don't just resort to violence again, and how they can return to being kind of like citizens with, productive lives and productive and peaceful lives. From each according to his ability, yeah, that's him all over. Oh, I already succeeded. Fantastic. Yeah. I don't like this ranking system that they have so much of second marquee and marquee, etc. This definitely did happen, but it wasn't this clear cut. And actually the titles didn't mean as much as we think they do. I mean, by the time that titles such as dukes and kings means a lot. If your title is king, it pretty much means that you're ready to usurp the emperor. No, everybody not of the royal blood who had the title of king was essentially getting ready to usurp the empire. Within a generation or two, it'd be done. The title of duke was also a level of kind of like imperial title, because Imperial China abolished the aristocracy in any Western sense very early on. They did not like these titles of dukes and kings at all. It diverted too much power away from the central government. So to get a title such as a king basically meant that the empire was going to, it was going to be over. It was going to be another empire. You only got the title of king when you're getting ready to usurp the emperor. And getting ready, and the title of duke was also very, very seldomly given to anybody not of the royal blood. And the title of marquis was, I guess, given a lot to great men. But yeah, again, power came from your patronage networks. It came from your kind of like followers, and it came from your government posts. All of those things would feed into each other. It did not come from these titles. These titles were more kind of like a reflection of power. I mean, to give you an idea, can't reach them this turn. That sucks. To give you an idea, okay, Lady Bian, is there something we can do about your uppity attitude? That's a shame. What is discipline? I don't even know what disciplined is. No. I'm gonna give you more authority. Sorry, back to this topic. Even marquis and such noble ranks. Okay, he's gonna run away like a coward.
Family grows large.
Arranged marriage between. I don't really need Cao Song. Cao Song is Cao Cao's dad. He's about to die soon, so yeah, I don't really care what happens to him. Let's do it.
Gives us joy.
Yeah, so even a title like Marquis, you would be supported by the income of something like 10,000 households, or maybe 100,000 households, let's say, exaggerated. Okay, well, that sounds pretty reasonable. You say that's a lot of households, that's a lot of income and land supporting your... it happened. Sorry, I'll just finish my thought first. You think, 10,000, 50,000 households, their taxes and their land supporting you, that sounds like a pretty decent income and a pretty decent base. It's actually nothing. The Han Empire had 50 million people in it. So 10,000 households is nothing. That's not going to make you... But, when you're talking about Marquis, you are talking about some of the most powerful men in the Empire. You think their power comes from having 10,000 households? No, not at all. It came from their patronage networks. It came from their political power and their government posts and how much kind of like, governmental power they can dole out. Didn't come from those 10,000 households. So you could view a lot of these noble titles as honorary. When you think about Imperial China, please get rid of your preconceived notions from, like medieval Western history. I love that shit as well, but it's just a completely different world. These noble titles don't mean anything. They're honorary titles. Anyway, so unfortunately, yeah, my father has died. I will have to follow the story, even though it makes no historical sense for me to go against Tao Tian right now. And it makes no strategic sense for me to go against Tao Tian right now. But, what are you gonna do? It's ancient China. You gotta have that filial piety. You gotta... Ooh. I have a lot of food right now. So, and my income's not so great. So I do believe that I'm gonna start trading some of my food away. Yeah, so historically, Cao Cao once... Alright, Tao Tian's there. Is this guy a danger to us? He's kind of a danger to us as well. Yeah, Cao Cao, you have to go after him. You have to get him. That can easily... Oh, actually, a town can probably hold against that. Nonetheless, go get him. I'll see about sorting out a second army. Let's see. Who do we like? Yuan Shao, yeah, okay. Yuan Shu, yeah. Wang Lang. Alright, which one of them has more money? Yuan Shao. Yuan Shu should be wealthy. Yeah, Yuan Shu.
A joy to see.
He was known to be fabulously wealthy, and that's what made him such a danger. I actually would like upfront payment from you. Not because I think you're gonna backstab me, but I think I need an injection of cash, like right now. Hey, yeah, that works.
An offer to be cherished.
Okay. Who am I going with next? Yuan Shao, let's go.
Good tidings!
I'm not too afraid of either of these guys right now. Yuan Shao, I mean, they're more powerful than me, obviously. But, Yuan Shao's got to deal with a lot more shit to his north. Gongsun Zan is going to go to war with him.
It's just a straight up give? Yeah, okay, sure.
Such an offer.
Yuan Shu,
shows
meanwhile, is
clear
going to be
thinking.
entangled with Dong Zhuo's remnants for a long time, I think. So not too eagerly
welcome
afraid of
sight.
all of them. Yeah, you could use some food. You want food. Who doesn't want food? So yeah, historically, Cao Cao's father gets killed by Tao Tian's men, and he wreaks this bloody path of vengeance against Tao Tian. The problem is that whilst he's away on campaign, his some of his officers mutineer, and he almost loses everything. So this was not historically. I'm actually quite wary. It was strategically a very bad move. It was historically kind of a failure. He almost loses everything from this. But I'm sure that they won't make this unwinnable. Lady Bian's away. Who do I get to run this army? Is there really nobody better? Yeah, damn, I guess it's these four guys. Alright. You know what? This is still fine. I will raise an army
Peace through conquest.
with Xiahou Yuan. You just
Once again,
guard
I feel
Chen.
the warmth of home.
I'm gonna need you to have kind of a balanced army to prepare for this. And that's really just, I gotta finish off He Yi before I think about even going west against Tao Tian. Tao Tian was historically very weak and not able to stand up to Cao Cao at all. But somehow I feel like for game balance, they're not gonna make him that weak. Or maybe they are. I don't know. I'll be pleasantly surprised if that's the case. Okay, I think this is the decent place to end it. We've united the Chen commandery after 5 turns of me just fucking up. And our father's been killed, and we will avenge him by just wreaking a path of bloody vengeance. As I've said before, I'm a huge Cao Cao fan. He's one of my favorite historical characters, both in Three Kingdoms, in Imperial China, just generally also worldwide. But there's a few things that he does. I would say there's like 3 things that he does that's morally beyond defending. I mean, his supporters certainly defended it, but they were from a different time, you know. This campaign against Tao Tian, he ends up committing a lot of massacres. Not so much during the actual strategic phase, but essentially during his retreat. His own officers mutiny, and on his retreat back, he puts many towns to the sword as kind of a collective punishment against the death of his father. Now, in a sense, that was almost justified in the standard morals of those time, because it was a filial pious society. You know, you had to avenge your father. But you know, from these days, you can't just, putting towns to the sword is not okay. That's what made Dong Zhuo a tyrant, among many other things. So this is like one of the like 2 or 3 big episodes he does that's really morally difficult to justify. The other one is that after defeating Yuan Shao, he suddenly came into possession of a huge amount of prisoners of war. Like, I mean, Yuan Shao's army just completely collapses. And he comes into possession of 80,000 prisoners of war that he has no idea what to do with. He can't, 80,000 men all of a sudden, if you imagine. He was short on food, he had no food, he couldn't feed them. And he didn't want to let them go because the war was still continuing and he was going to be in danger. And unfortunately, he made the decision to execute the 80,000 prisoners of war. And again, in those days, a lot of his political allies were like, well, what was he going to do? Like, Yuan Shao was his enemy. These were enemy troops. These weren't civilians. But, by any, I think, reasonable moral definition of the present day, killing 80,000 prisoners of war, not great. So anyway, this is where we'll leave it. And we're at 192 AD. We hold less troops and less territory than Cao Cao did historically at this point. We're in a worse position, so this is all going great. I am definitely going to live up to the name of the Hero of Chaos. See you all later, and I will be also trying to do the historical lore videos, but I'll only really have time to do those on the weekend. I kind of work pretty long hours. All right, we're out.